AITA for leaving my 9-year-old half-brother home alone? Hi. So, I, 19F, live with my dad, stepmom, and my half-brother, 9 meters. For weeks it was planned that this past Friday night my dad and stepmom were going to her parents' 40th wedding anniversary at some fancy-ass restaurant. Me and my brother weren't invited 'cause we're not adults. Since I didn't get an invitation and didn't want to be stuck at home with just my brother, I decided to make plans myself, and me and my BF were to go on a date. My dad and stepmom wanted me to babysit my brother, but like they've never paid me for babysitting him ever, and he's pretty hyperactive, so no thanks. After complaining for a bit, they hired a babysitter for him. So Friday comes around and I'm doing my hair and makeup and all that, getting ready for the date. My dad and stepmom had already left for the dinner. While I was getting ready, I get a call from my stepmom in the car on the way to the restaurant, saying that the babysitter canceled and that I'd have to stay home and watch him. I told her I was sorry, but I had plans I didn't want to cancel. She said it was too late to call anyone and I had to stay. I said I can't and that I'd be at home for another 40-ish minutes, which would be enough time for them to come back home, and they have to be back then to watch him. She just hung up. Well, I finished getting ready and even waited another 15 minutes and they weren't back yet. I texted them I was leaving and left my brother home alone. We live in a nice neighborhood and I'm pretty sure I stayed home alone when I was 10, so I was sure it'd be fine. Especially since they didn't bother to come back home. Anyways, long story short, when I came back home they were already home and my stepmom was pissed that I left my brother home alone. She called me irresponsible and said I didn't care about family, etc. She also told me I'd have to pay for this vase my brother broke. I feel this is unreasonable since I gave them a warning I was leaving and they had the opportunity to come back, but IDK. AITA? Oh, and just to add, in case people are wondering if I paid rent or whatever, my grandmother gifted the house to my mom and dad as a wedding gift. When my mom left my dad, she gave him the house under the condition I could live there up until I finish grad school if I wanted to. Edit. Should have added that I only get free housing. Not because they choose to, but because of a contract my dad signed that he's forced to comply with. Everything else I pay for myself. And I make my own food and clean up my messes. I should have said so in the post instead of commenting it. Oh yeah, and in case it wasn't clear in the post, I have babysat him plenty of times before. Info. Did the babysitter actually cancel, or did they never book one in the first place? NTA. You told him you wouldn't watch him. When the babysitter canceled, ultimately it's their responsibility to come home, not you. They are the parents. I've got a Fiverr that says they never arranged a babysitter and planned the emergency last minute cancellation call the whole time. I think NTA because they manipulated the situation. But I also think that you living there until finishing grad school isn't a viable option. What happens to the divorce settlement if you decide the living situation is untenable? Going to go against the grain. You didn't technically leave the 9-year-old at home. They did. They took a bad bet and it failed. They should have come home instead of trying to strongarm you into it. You gave them several warnings and waited and waited and waited. Oh, and they never hired that babysitter. You were lied to. NTA, but you do suck a little bit, but you were in between a rock and a hard place. You just didn't make the best call. NTA, the parents are taking op as free babysitter. She refused to babysit. They trapped her. She even told them and waited for them to come back, but they were stuck on forcing her to stay with step-brother. She imposed her boundaries and now I doubt they'll try to pull that one again. You can set a price table for babysitting SB, and make sure to charge more for last-minute requests. Unless it's an emergency, obviously. I can't wrap my head around Op not invited to the restaurant because she's not an adult at 19. Also, there was never a sitter. In talk. I call BS on the parents. Who leaves before the sitter arrives? They usually want an introduction, instructions. I'm going with NTA for Op. See, what you should have done was left the house before them so that if anything came up, as it did, you would not be home and could not be responsible for anything. I have a feeling that if you ask, tell me the name and contact info of the babysitter, you're going to be met with a lot of resistance. I'm suggesting that there maybe wasn't a babysitter to begin with. NTA either way. You said you weren't going to do it well in advance of the day. They knew this. While he is your brother, he is their son. Your stepmom calling and saying, "You have to stay," was wrong. And from your tone I imagine this isn't the only time they ask you to sacrifice for family. Can you talk to your actual mom about this? You're just lucky the Goblin King didn't show up and steal your half-brother away to become a goblin, forcing you to make your way through the labyrinth to rescue him. Honestly, who wants to bet there was never a babysitter to begin with? All these stories have a broken vase. Do AITA trolls get their material from 80s sitcoms? NTA, as a parent myself, I would never force anyone to babysit my kids and have, on multiple occasions, canceled plans and rearranged them last minute, including not going to an out-of-state wedding, because my parents decided last minute that they didn't want to babysit our kids for the weekend, even though for months prior they had offered and agreed to do so. She isn't a parent. She is a sibling. She isn't a brat. She told her dad and stepmom no and what their options are. They are the assholes for attempting to force her to babysit. That they never checked in on her or their son until after dinner shows that they really thought that ignoring a no boundary was acceptable. NTA. He's 9 and unless he's special needs, he should be able to be left alone for a couple hours. Honestly, it sounds like your parents didn't schedule a babysitter then lied to you to force you to stay home. Because it seems like a stretch that the babysitter canceled once they had already left. NTA. I was staying home alone for an hour or so at age 8. It was fine. Also, it's the parents' responsibility to arrange a babysitter or come back. I'm doubtful they actually arranged one based on your comments. They were counting on you to not leave. It backfired. You told them. I would say Esh. He's a 9-year-old child and he shouldn't be left alone. But anyone else think that there was no babysitter to begin with and the stepmom planned this to try and get them to stay at home and babysit? Your SM and dad are their kid. They need to figure it out. And I wonder if they had a sitter. I feel old. In my day, 9 years old was old enough to stay alone. NTA. I really don't get people saying that was on you to take care of him. It would have been nice of you not to let him alone, but it was clearly your parents responsible, and if anyone should have been sent to jail should anything happens would be your parents who left their own child in the hands of someone who clearly refused multiple times to be involved in this. NTA. At first, I was like, dude, he's 9. I'd gaff if the neighborhood is safe. However, the parents knew the babysitter canceled, knew Op had plans, and Op even informed them that no matter what, she was still going out. She even waited additional time for them to get home. They chose to go to the restaurant when said 9-year-old is their responsibility, not Op's. Had it been a case where the babysitter never showed up and the parents didn't know that, then Op would be the Op.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.